Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I am with Alex from Alex's Knifebox. Is it Alex's Knifebox on just Instagram, or is YouTube also Alex's Knifebox?
YouTube's Alex's Knifebox, and then Instagram's Alex_Knifebox.
So there's no S on Instagram, but there is an S on YouTube.
Correct.
Got it. So we just hiked up into my favorite canyon. I brought Alex here. It's his first time up, and we figured we would do a little bit of a pocket check on each other and talk about each other's knives. Since the knives in my pockets I've already talked to you about, and we'll see what's in his pockets. But
Sweet.
Do you want to go first or me?
Whichever, man. I'm fighting the bugs here, so let's roll.
Story of my life. So I have my giant mouse, Ace Grande.
So this is really cool. This is the first time I'm actually holding on to one of these, and I'm actually really impressed. Now, one thing I've noticed, like most stuff that comes from Maniago, you can see the beautiful round crowning that it's got. And what I really find interesting on it is also the jimping right up at the front. That's pretty clever. I never see people usually do that. The jimping's usually at the back of the knife, but on this one you got it right up in the front, which is really sweet. Another thing that's kind of cool about the blade too is I found that when I spidey flick it, my finger really fits in that teardrop hole really easily. A lot easier than a round hole, so I like that a lot. So this is really cool, Jake. I really like this, and the micarta feels super nice. This feels high quality.
It's well done, right?
Very well done.
The best giant mouse I have ever owned, for sure.
Yeah, that
Easily.
is beautiful.
Should we go back and forth, or do
Yeah.
you... Okay.
Yeah, here. So here, you can check out this one.
It's in a Skiff bag. So either he's using a bag for something else, or it is indeed a Skiff. Very cool. Which model is this?
So that is a Steve Skiff Drifter, and that's his newest model. And I love that thing, man. I just got it. I think that's probably one of my biggest surprises of all year, just because of the way it feels. Not all because of the way it looks, but just the way it feels. The opening and closing experience on it's really nice.
Yeah. So Alex and I are on the Sharp Talk podcast together. They just invited me to be a new member of it, which is exciting. You can listen to our episodes there. But you talked about this on the podcast on Sunday when we were filming. And so I've seen him hold this up to the camera, but I have not... Oh, come on, focus. It's trying to catch our eyes. I have not seen it in person until right now, and this thing is ridiculous. So this hardware is titanium that's been anodized.
And polished.
Bronze, but as you can see, this is the most gold anodization I've ever seen on titanium.
Now, I actually asked for gold. I didn't ask. They offer bronze too. So I wanted it to be I told them I wanted it to be like bling gold, like P. Diddy gold.
I didn't know you could do that to titanium. That's what's most impressive to me. Very cool.
I'm sure it's pretty difficult because I rarely see it that color.
Yeah, all the details on this knife are bananas. The hand rub is gorgeous. The flats are like basically mirror polished. They're so hand rubbed. The grinds are absolutely money. The forward finger choil feels fantastic. There's no jimping anywhere, which is a big thing for me. Internally, there's even like the Skiff logo is not just etched, but like actually it looks like it's literally like lightly ground in. I don't even know how you would describe that.
Yeah, he engraved it, and then on the other side too. You got
the other
serial
side says Drifter number 14. That is absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, all of the milling everywhere. The way the milling extends onto the pivot collar too, if you can see that. That's nuts. Everything is perfectly fit. The pivots themselves.
That one on the backside acts as an over travel stop. It's pretty
clever. You're right. Yeah, I didn't even notice that, 'cause it just barely overhangs onto the lock bar, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Dude, that is absolutely ridiculous.
So that knife was $825 if you order one from Steve Skiff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you guys could do any better if you guys want to get into that custom market. I've heard of Steve Skiff being one of the most underrated custom knife maker for years, and I never bought one before because honestly, the blade shape on the Accomplice and on his other model, I didn't like it as much. But when this came out, I thought it was like right on the money. Like
fantastic.
Perfect.
All right.
So,
Does that make it my turn?
yes, sir.
I'll go with what's in my back pocket. I do have a couple knives in the bag, but this is my quiet carry Waypoint,
Oh yes.
which I think Alex owns one as well, but
I do.
it's a different finish, right?
Yeah, mine's the black Cerakote or whatever he uses to the black handle one, but
Still a satin blade on yours?
still a satin blade.
'Cause I know he did some that were all blacked out.
Right. I think he did a red one too, if I remember right.
And a blue, yeah. On Vanex, though, I feel like you should leave that blade satin. Since it is so corrosion resistant, I feel
Oh,
like coating
absolutely.
it seems like the wrong thing to do.
Absolutely. There's no point in coating it. So I think this knife is underrated. As an EDC, neutral handle, right? Everything lines up nicely. It's got a really nice balance to it. I think where I had mine, it's like right up here-ish, right? And just the handle gives you exactly 4-finger grip, which is what I really like. Now these are advertised to be, well, I wouldn't say rust proof, say rust resistant.
I think, yeah, I imagine it's difficult to call something rust proof because then people want to find any way they possibly can to get it to rust.
Right.
But I've personally tried to find any way I possibly could to get it to rust, and it hasn't rusted for me.
I think this is pretty much as rust proof as you can get. So LC200N liners, titanium scales. I don't know about the hardware on the knife, if that's just
I think he calls it marine grade hardware, if I'm not mistaken.
okay. So he even went through the hardware, and then of course Vanex, a nitrogen steel is not gonna.
Yeah. I've literally, with that knife, every time that I'm around water, and there's a puddle here, so I'll do it now, but every time I'm around water and I have that knife in my pocket, I will dunk it in the water, close it, and put it back in my pocket soaking wet, just to keep proving to myself. Like, all that's happened is I've gotten water spots when it's been like a fountain with hard water or something. But it literally just, it will not rust. I did a test that I did a little video on, leaving it in like sliced apple and then submerging it in lemonade. Still nothing. Like, even acidic. Yeah, it's crazy to me.
That is a really cool knife. Very underrated, and he's local to us. He's right down in Costa Mesa.
Yeah.
So I like him. I had really good customer service experience. I bought 2 knives off him. I bought that, and then I got the Drift.
Oh, right.
And both perfect.
Yeah, he's dope. So when I got this and started posting videos of it, he and I started DMing on Instagram, and I've just kept in touch with him, and he actually is one of the sponsors of the giveaway that I'm picking a winner for today.
Oh,
So,
freaking awesome.
yeah, he sent the current fixed blade just for me to give away in my 1K, which was dope of him. So
That's so
by the time
awesome.
you see this, that'll have already happened. But
Yeah, yeah. Very cool, very cool. Uh-oh.
it's a good thing it's an ESEE.
Yeah.
So this is the Izula 1, which if you've watched my channel for a while, you'll know I used to keep an Izula 2 on my day pack, and it's been replaced by that BGM, which I'll show him in a minute. But the Izula in general is one of my favorite small outdoor knives. If you watch my review of my Izula 2, it's like, it should be a staple in like an outdoorsman's collection, I think, because it's just so great at being a tough, like really robust outdoor knife, but still being tiny, and has tons of dexterity, and you can do detailed work with it. I've feather sticked with it. It does great. You can start fires with it, and it's also just like, yeah, they're bulletproof. This one's got totally different scales than mine too. Mine's in micarta. These are G10 scales, and obviously it's coated lime green, which is
Yeah.
pretty rad.
Old school, man. I've had that knife for years and years and years. I've put it through some stuff, but it's usually my little backup blade when I go outdoors, because I usually carry a bigger fixed blade.
Are you carrying it scout carry?
Nah.
Lower back? Or just...
So you could tell me what you think about scout carry. I never carry scout because if you fall and you land on that portion on your lower back on a rock or something
It's
hard,
the wrong spot to have
dude,
something
you can-
pushing into your spine.
Oh, big time, man. You can get injured like crazy.
Yeah.
So I never scout carry. I think it looks awesome.
Yeah.
I like the way it looks.
I've
It's-
never done it. If I have a sheath knife, it's right side, just
I mean,
traditional.
I want to come out of the water really, really slow and pull it out from like out of nowhere.
And then assassinate somebody.
Yeah, you know, and then put it in my mouth, go back in the water. But
Yeah.
I mean, in all honesty, I never do that. I do like to drop leg rigs.
Mm-hmm.
I like that a lot because it keeps the knife off my hip.
Right.
And it keeps it tight to my leg. But with leg rigs, it does give you like a different kind of fatigue when you're hiking with it.
Yeah.
So they're cool. But yeah, most of the time, or I'll do like a little leather drop down.
Yeah.
That's cool too.
Yeah, if I carry a belt knife, it's like always just right hand, like most typical position. But for the last couple of years, my go-to has been on the pack so that it's right here so I can get to it.
Yep, that's a great spot for it too. Oh, look at that.
There's my BGM Pike.
Wow. Who makes this?
BGM Knives. You've probably seen Gerald if you watch Outpost 76's videos. I say Outpost 76 so you guys know who it is. Gerald is on the Sharp Talk podcast with us. But yeah, my buddy Sam Didio was the first person that I knew who had a BGM knife. And I think he actually has had several for a while. But he always talked up John, the guy behind BGM Knives. And so I'd been meaning to try one for a long time. And when I finally decided I'd kind of outgrown having the Izula 2 as my designated pack knife, I wanted something like really tailored to what I was looking for in a knife for that application. I just was keeping an eye on John's posts, and he finally put up this one that was available. His wait times are super short from what I understand, but this one he had ready to ship. I don't know if someone fell through on it or what, but it's 80 CRV2 steel, which for this application I love. My Carta scales, it's compound ground, so I've got super strength at the tip. It's like a really robust tip, but the main bevel is hollow ground, and it's stupid thin.
Close. So I love the way that thing looks, and I love the way that thing fits in the hand. That compound grind is done really, really nicely. Because a lot of times when people do compound grinds, they go overboard on the tip a lot of times. I see it's always like this big, massive, ugly tip.
It becomes unuseful.
Yeah. Exactly.
That you can still make kind of like chisel push cuts with.
Right.
And it's,
and it's still fairly thin. I mean, that's not like completely out of the ordinary, ridiculously thick on the tip. That's still relatively thin. And then this is really nice and thin, so very nice design. It's super comfortable, and I love the fact that the blade surpasses your knuckles.
Yep.
And you got the beautiful little sharpening choil, which is it means so much to me.
Yep. And 80 CRV2, it's like fairly easy to sharpen.
80 CRV2 is tough as it gets, and it takes a really good edge. A lot of the higher end fixed blade outdoors guys like who likes to use that stuff a lot. Was it Timberwolf or Wolf Timber? God, what's his name? There's a couple guys out there, but outdoors guys use this steel quite a bit. This
popular
is really cool.
For a reason.
Yep. Very, very cool.
It's hard to show you the sheath too, but the sheaths that he does for his knives are fantastic. I have no issues with retention, carrying it vertical. It's been on that
whole
pack
hike here. I saw it, like you didn't even budge. That's pretty cool. All right. Well, we're doing the 60s. There you go. Here's a Barky.
I've only handled a couple of Bark Rivers ever.
Now that one I haven't used yet. I did buy it with the intent to use it, but I have like 5 or 6 Bark Rivers, and that one's like a nice, good size.
Thick blade stock. I have to cover our eyes so that it'll focus on it.
Good old A2 tool steel, and that's a pretty sought after model. A lot of Bark River guys went nuts when I posted a picture of it.
It's a convex grind?
Yeah, it's a convex grind, A2 tool steel.
I love that he's in Escanaba, Michigan, up in the Upper Peninsula. I lived in Michigan for a couple of years, so it's cool that
very cool.
He's up there. Man, that's cool. This blade shape too.
So that's I don't recall all the specifics. I'll do a review on it later, but it's a mix of 2 classic blades. They call that one the Special Hunter Hidden Tang. But it's a mix of like a Boone and something else.
Yeah, it's got kind of like a Bowie element to it.
Right.
but not quite. It's like tweaked.
Right.
That's gorgeous. First production run marked. And this is antler, I'm assuming, with G10 laid in.
It's sandbar stag with, yeah, I think it's red G10. I can't remember what the spacer material is that they
The
use.
stacking on it is really cool.
Yeah.
Oof. And it feels great in hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is really, really nice. Yeah, Bark River is one of those fixed blade companies that I feel like has their reputation for very good reason. Because I just never see anybody who's not happy with a Bark River knife. It's so consistently positive, everything I hear about them. And the few that I've held have all been ridiculously nice.
Yeah.
Even the sheath is great. These sheaths come from him too?
Yeah, so that sheath, it's usually more of a lighter tan,
Mm-hmm.
but if you want to, you can give them an extra like 20 or 30 bucks,
He'll
and
stain
then they dip it in this kind of like waterproof-ish
It's awesome.
wax or whatever it is.
It's formed great. Everything is super soft. That's killer, dude.
Thanks, man.
I'm probably going to run out of knives before you do, but it's my turn.
I don't know. I'm running pretty low. So this is the Protec Malibu, right?
Yeah, the new one with the reverse tanto.
So this is really, really cool. So honestly, like, when I saw this knife online, I was curious because I wanted to feel what their button lock is like. But otherwise, I wasn't just really into this knife until I just held it today. This knife is freaking awesome. So first of all, when I saw it in the pictures, I expected it to be a bigger knife, which would have been a lot less appealing to me.
I think most people assumed it was about the same size as the Mordax.
Yes,
And then, yeah, it's noticeably smaller.
like big time noticeably smaller. So this is perfect. I love this. And the other thing that I noticed, the blade to handle ratio is ridiculous on this.
Yep.
So
The amount of cutting edge for the overall dimensions of that knife.
yeah,
Bananas.
I mean, you can even look at the handle and the blade separately, and it just, the proportioning, wow. Now, another thing I was telling Jake earlier was that most of these types of manual button lock knives usually feel a little bit on the lighter side when it comes to detent, which sometimes makes you like half flip them, right?
Yep.
Like my Brian tie is kind of like that.
Okay.
And but this one, I don't know if they have a detent ball in it or what. I'd really be interested when you take this thing apart to know what's going on here, because
Internally, what's happening?
this is really this is the
crispy.
best one I've ever felt for a manual button lock. Feels so nice and clean. I always like Protecs, a little fine. They kind of don't billboard much, like they hide everything. Like here, it's just written on the spine a little bit.
Yeah.
And you can see the 20 CV steel on the flipper tab.
I've been pretty hard on my testing on that knife too. I'm about ready to do my full review on it. Even yesterday I was installing like a window AC unit at my sister-in-law's place, and there's like this dense foam that you're supposed to pack in the gaps with.
Right.
And that's the knife that I had back pocket as my secondary, and I'm trying to test it, and so I was putting it through like a bunch of this dense foam, and it's like, that thing is a really good cutter. I've put it through tons of cardboard, paracord, rope to test. I've opened a bunch of just packages and stuff with it, but then I've done that crazy foam with it, and I've just been trying to push it, and it's like, I don't know, I've been
This is
super
really,
impressed.
really good, guys. So good. Very, very good. I like this knife a lot, man.
Appreciate
It's
it.
beautiful. I got one more, I think. All right. No, two more. Two more.
Well, good, because I have one more, so I'll go you, me, you, and then we'll be done.
So a lot of you guys always make fun about how like you guys think I'm some kind of baller, and I always like have everything is tie mask is full dress, everything I carry all the time. As you can see, I brought like a cheap little fixed blade that I love probably as much as anything else I own. But since that was the case, I thought I'd bring something dressy out just for you guys.
One knife to put my whole collection to shame.
Nah.
Dude,
So
this
that
is
one I
nuts.
bought off, I want to give a big shout out to That's Not a Knife on
I
Instagram.
follow that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my buddy Russell. That's who I bought that from. And if you guys get a chance, follow That's Not a Knife on Instagram, where it's that's underscore not underscore underscore knife.
He likes
And-
underscores.
Yeah, he's got a lot of underscores, and
4 underscores and 7 years ago.
dude, his collection's insane. It's like every knife is like $5,000, $6,000. Yeah, so I bought that beautiful piece from him. It's a JD Van Deventer Gold with Westinghouse micarta scales, Damascus pivots and pivot colors, and backspacer, and it's got a really tight herringbone Damascus on it.
Yeah, so first of all, this is way out of my league in terms of what I'm even used to handling. This is ridiculous. But the details on this knife, it's like every single spot that I look at, regardless of whether I'm looking at as like a macro, the whole, or like micro focusing in on things, there's something that is phenomenally well done. Like the bolsters, the pivot collars, the pivot itself, the Damascus, the mirror polish that's on the flats. This Westinghouse is phenomenal, and it's lined with this perfectly fitted, I assume that's black G10 or I don't know what, but it might even just be black micarta, I don't know. The back spacer, the clip, all of the Damascus that's on the knife matches perfectly. Like it looks, I don't know, it's so uniform. The way that clip, I'll see if I can block our eyes. The way that the clip, focusing is going to be tough. The way that it matches the bolsters and the backspacer, it's like so obviously coming from the exact same piece of material, and it all just flows. Goodness.
So there's a series of, I think there's 3 or 5 of those.
Yeah.
And each one's got their own little specific character because it was 5 collectors, like 3 years ago, 3 or 5 big collectors that decided they wanted a Westinghouse Damascus gold, and they all 5 guys got together, and they all look almost identical, but there's a little fine detail different about each and every one.
What's crazy is, so with most Damascus materials that I've seen, which a poor guy like me isn't all that much, even on the mirror polished flats, which are truly mirror polished, like my reflection is as clear as day, if you get close enough to it, you can still just barely see the herringbone pattern, and it's like it has this really cool effect as you get close to it. I don't know, even the swedge, the way you see the pattern come through in a different element. Goodness, this thing is nuts. And functionally, as a knife, the ergos are actually phenomenal. This harpoon kind of effect you get with the swedge up there is super comfortable for the finger.
I like the way he did his sharpening choil on that one too.
Dude, yeah.
No smile, no nothing, just goes right to the tip.
The edge terminates perfectly.
So that's why I like JD. I actually have more of his knives than a lot of other people. I think I have four JDs. And what I like about him so much is just because his knives has their own styling. Now I should mention that this is a JD Van Deventer Gold, but this is in collaboration with JVO. So JVO, the knife designer, should get some credit with that too, since that's part of his design.
It's
But
ridiculous.
it was cool. It was a fun one. So, thanks, Russell.
Oh, man. Well, now whatever I pull out next is going to look pretty dismal. But I also brought up my TRM Atom today, which Alex also owns an Atom, but mine's different from his Atom.
Yours is better.
What material are your scales?
So I have the OD Green G10, and then I have, G10, the OD Green micarta, and I have the blue and black carbon fiber ones.
Oh, rad.
And I really love this knife. There was a lot of hype around it, for quite a long time. And I understand the knife and the hype, but for my own reasons. Like for me, it's about how thin it is, how simple it is, and how it's got just a nice blend of really good high-end materials. I mean, it's all pretty much titanium, right? I don't think anything's stainless steel on this.
Yeah,
Unless maybe perhaps this little cage area
Part
right
of the
here.
liner. Yeah, so my whole thing with TRM and how I've kind of fallen in love with them recently, because I finally got my first ones, is both the Neutron and this are just some of the slimmest knives that I own. So in pocket, they're ridiculously comfortable, but they're really good at, like, most knives that slim that I've ever held have been pretty supremely uncomfortable ergonomically. And these aren't like an ergonomic dream. If they were thicker, they'd obviously feel better. But for how thin they are, I'm always shocked how good they're able to get those ergos.
Yeah.
And they all feel like, since they're small batch and they're made here by really cool, really nice people, there's like a certain sensation I get from the knives that feels a little bit more personal. Not quite on the level of a custom, but they don't feel quite production either. They're like this weird...
It's not like buying
spot.
a Benchmade or like a Spyderco.
Not even close.
And you know, what I really like about TRM is the way they run their group on Facebook. They run their group really, really cool. And Marianne...
Tycoons really matter.
Yeah, and they're really involved, guys. I mean, if you guys are into TRM and you guys jump on that group, it's one of the coolest groups I've ever been in. I rarely see any drama whatsoever.
Yep.
It's just really all about the knife, and everybody's genuinely excited about these knives. And when I first got mine, I held off for a while because A, they're hard to get, right?
Yep.
And then B, they're, you know, I guess that's pretty much the only reason why it took me so long to get one, because it took a while. But I just, you know, when I actually got it, I really appreciate how thin that blade was. Ergonomically, like you said, it's not perfect, but it's good enough. I mean, there's nothing about it that's uncomfortable. It's relatively neutral as far as the handle shape. I really like the way they did their micarta. Feels nice.
Yep.
So, and then of course, you know, the washers. These things are ultra smooth. The only problem that I've had with mine is my pivot. As soon as this thing starts flipping really nice, I know my pivot's walked.
Yep.
So
Starts to come off center a little bit.
yep.
Yeah.
So I know. So I've had to Loctite that, but other than that, the knife's been perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of those issues that... So this one, I've readjusted the pivot once. I've had the same thing happen. But of all the issues I can have on a knife, if I could pick it, it would probably be that one. I would much rather have a pivot that I need to Loctite down, and I've always got tools with me, and it's like, for me, that's not that big of a deal compared to other QC issues that are much less favorable, in my opinion.
By the way, guys, I'm not crazy. I'm swatting flies and shit.
He's crazy. And he's
crazy.
swatting flies.
Yeah, that there's a reason why that knife is so well received and loved.
Yep.
And TRM is one of those where I'm like, I love the company and I love the knife. And the more and more I start collecting knives over the years and getting to meet, like, you know, make friends and stuff like that in the knife community, the less I'm starting to buy knives for the knife and the more I'm starting to buy the maker.
Yep.
And that's a kind of a big deal. Now, of course, I don't want to buy crap, but I can live with some things much more than with some flaws on a knife, which is going to cut shit anyways.
Right.
Than dealing with a maker that's less than par, to be nice about it. You know? Which I've had my experiences. Custom knife makers are sometimes hard to deal with. You'll get a knife, you spend over $1,000, and not only is it less than perfect, but it's really actually jacked up.
Yeah.
Like, and then you got to send it back, and then, I mean, I've had knives. I have had one in the process where I had to have it fixed, and 6 months later, it's right. $1,500 later.
It's crazy.
I'm not gonna say who, but he's really, actually a really nice guy. But we just had issues with this knife, and eventually he came around and fixed it. So yeah, that's my spiel on that. I guess I got one more for you. Wherever I put it. Alright, last knife, guys.
The grand finale.
Boom, boom, boom.
In an unmarked pouch.
A little hint, it comes from South Africa too.
Ooh. So first impression is fat carbon. That is ridiculous.
PHAT fat.
Yes. With 2 T's at the end. Fat.
So for you guys, I just found out what that fat carbon is. Some of you guys, I've had a couple of people message me, ask me what's in there. It's a ceramic is what's in there. So it's carbon fiber and ceramic. The ceramic is the colored part.
It's gorgeous with the blue.
Yep.
See if I can get it to focus.
And then when the light hits it in different patterns, you can see different shapes kind of pop out in it, and
Totally.
some blue will disappear and other blues will appear. It's really kind of cool. It's got depth.
This is ridiculously smooth.
So that's a Trevor Burger LEXK CFL, and that is one of 10 pieces that he made last October in fat carbon.
So this blade shape is gorgeous. First of all, definitely my style with this like sheep's foot thing that's going on with a swedge. The hand rub on it is so consistent and really well done. There's no billboarding on it anywhere, which I appreciate on a blade this well finished. It would be a shame to cover it with some laser marking of the maker's mark.
Which he actually used to be guilty of.
Oh, really?
He used to have a big old round circle with a dagger going through it, and he used to like, that's years ago, but yeah, he used to have a big old maker's mark on his knives back in the day.
The spec on this is perfect too. So this fat carbon is just gorgeous, of course, but then the titanium backspacer and clip and pivot collars are all this really nice light blue, and then the show side, or the lock side rather, is milled in a really cool way. It's got this great, like, just pleasant amount of traction without being abrasive at all. The only part of this knife that has any kind of like real grippy texture to it is the jimping here, which is not even like offensively grippy, and it makes perfect sense because it's a front flipper, so you need it to be able to do that. That is really well thought out, and probably one of the best actions I've ever felt on a knife, period. That's just phenomenally smooth.
Yeah.
It's glassy.
I always said that Trevor Burger is, for me, and people might disagree with me, but Trevor Burger is usually my, he's like the foundation for front flippers for me. So like, he's like, if it's better than that, then it's a really awesome knife. But that's a hard front flipper to top because it's got this really smooth, glassy action, perfect detent. The way he positions his front flippers is really nice. Now, he's a second generation knife maker. His father actually was good friends with Mike Skellern. If you guys remember the Boker Excalibur.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So that's a Mike Skellern design, which looks really a lot like these.
It does.
And that's because that is also a Mike Skellern partial design
Runs
with his
family.
dad's. So he took over and he started making these knives, which were designed by his dad and Mike Skellern.
Yeah, that action is bananas, and it is addictive.
Yeah, that one's really addictive. I'll bring out its smaller brother next time. There's a smaller version that's pretty nice too.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like I see so much hype around one South African front flipper being the Shamwari.
I think this is better.
I've never held a Shamwari, but design-wise, I'm also more drawn to this shape, and that blade shape particularly is just excellent.
I'm not gonna lie, these are hard to get because he's a small batch custom knife maker, but you, if you're persistent enough and you follow him on Instagram and stuff, you can get one of these. Shamwaris,
It's so tough.
forget it.
Even
Like,
the Shamwari.
just get $2,000, then you can have one, right?
Yeah. Dude, that's
So,
bananas.
Yeah, but I've held a Shamwari, I've played with one. I think they're amazing knives. The reason why I'm not all about the Shamwari, and I'm still planning to buy a custom Sham one of these days, but the reason why I'm not all as hyped on them is because a lot of people don't understand. The reason why that knife is so gorgeous is that blade. That's, I mean, the handle is just 2 slabs of titanium. It's
Super simple, yeah.
There's nothing, and the simplicity of it is probably what makes that knife so cool. But that blade shape is basically a Sabenza.
Right.
and the guy was
He even hollow grinds them too, doesn't he?
yeah,
It
just
looks
like a
pretty
Sabenza.
deep-
And Chris Reeve, he worked under Chris Reeve, so you could see the influence by the Bull's work. Gareth Bull does amazing work, but I had a little bit. My feeling on the Sham was that the detent was so light I could just drop it out and right. This one is not like that.
It's crispy. Yeah.
It's light, but it's not too light, right? So when I can like slightly wiggle the knife and then the blade falls out, it's just something yeah, light detent is one of those pet peeves for me. I
tend to forgive it a little bit more if it's like a really big, really heavy blade, because then it's harder to.
Well, yeah.
Like
now you're fighting
gravity and
fighting
physics.
the forces of nature, right?
Yeah, but yeah, a little skinny thing like a chamois. I didn't know that they had a light detent.
Well, and somebody told me they're better now, because the last time I played with a chamois was probably about 2 years ago. So hopefully it got better, but I'm not paying $2,000, guys. And you can see, like, I'm not cheap. It's not like I don't want to spend money on knives, but it's got to be the right thing, right? Like, if I spend $2,000 on that JD with the Westinghouse and all that, I feel like I got my money's worth, right? Like, I look at this thing.
After looking at that knife and knowing exactly what a chamois looks like, I can vouch for that.
And I paid less for that than I can for a chamois. So, like, at that point, you know, like, you guys get so obsessed over this particular knife that came out, right? And I've done it too. I'm sure he's done it. You get so focused on this thing, and the more you can't have it, the more you freaking want it, right? And then you start like thinking about throwing extra money at somebody just to have it, right? And then, but
happens at any price point too. You look at like the Rec Para 3 or the Spyderco Swish Buoy, however you say it, like knives like that are nice, but I wouldn't say are ultimately all that special. Right. Once that hype train gets rolling, and
well, here's the
would
problem.
I like to have all of those knives? Sure. It's not that I don't want them.
Though. You get focused on those knives, guys, and you lose focus that there are so many other knife makers out there, dude. Cosi Steam Camp. There's so many custom knives out there, guys, that you guys think you have to get into like thousands of dollars to get a custom knife. You can get a custom knife for $500.
Yep.
That's probably Spyderco's most expensive production knife. And I can guarantee you, if you hold a Cosi Steam Camp Samson, which was $445, by the way, it will blow away any Spyderco you've ever had. Now, it may not have Maximate or this or that, but it's more of a show knife, and it's a front flipper, and so there's always that purpose, right, for a knife. Is it supposed to be a nice gentleman's carry that's supposed to look pretty and cut decently and not rust?
What is it built to do, and what do you intend to actually do with it?
Exactly.
Two very important questions.
So if you want a custom knife, they're not that expensive, guys. As a matter of fact, I just see production knives just raise and raise and raise. It's getting to the point where, like, you're gonna start like looking at like a Benchmade, and for $100 more, you can have some guy make something cool for you.
Yeah, or at least a mid-tech, or you start playing $400 or $500. You're talking Olamic money, where you can do some real cool customization and have kind of a production knife, kind of some custom elements.
The Olamics in their own realm, man. They're so cool. I love Olamic.
A different company for sure.
Like, where else can you go and send your knife in and say, I want to redo the whole thing? Most knife makers would be like, give you the middle finger. Like, I ain't redoing all that work. I sent in my busker. Like, they redid the entire thing for me in like a week. And they didn't charge me a whole lot for what they did. And the customer service experience with Eugene and Ilya, guys, they are absolutely the nicest people on the planet. Like, Eugene's so cool.
Yeah.
Like, I walked into CCKS last year, and then when I start walking by the Olamic table, I've only talked to Eugene online, right? Like Facebook and stuff. I walk up to the table, never met the guy, and he's like, "What's up, Alex?" It was like the coolest feeling. I'm like, "Oh my God, what's up, Eugene?"
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, my first CCKS 2 years ago was where I bought my first Wayfarer, and I spent the longest time, by far, of like the entire show. I probably spent half of my time there at the Olamic table talking to Eugene and flipping all of his knives, and yeah, super cool dude.
Super nice guy, man.
But yeah, there's companies like that exist. That
right.
Every time I get on the Olamic subject, I scratch my head as to how they're not a way bigger deal. Because in my mind, Olamic, like the Wayfarer particularly, should be seen as competition for the XM18, the Strider S&G, the Chris Reeve Sebenza, and I have bought several Wayfarers before I'd buy any of those. Like, but people don't see, they have blind spots for certain companies. It's just like what you're saying, for the hype is behind Chris Reeve, so people think a $450 knife is a Sebenza. Meanwhile, $450 thrown in another direction that not everyone else is going, I'd argue,
get
can get you a lot more. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I've been on this venture for since the beginning of last year, where my thing is trying to search out for unknown custom knife makers and try those knives out, because A, they cost less, and B, it's cool because you've never seen one before. Like, you just don't know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
So I got something really cool coming from a custom knife maker in New York who's been making knives since 2013, but he's not really well known. I think it's Lodato Knives. I'll message you. But again, unknown knife maker. We're gonna build a fat carbon with Sanmai XHP low layer Damascus blade with backspacer and pivot colors, all matching, all Sanmai, for what I think it was like $900.
Jeez.
A full dress knife, guys, for $900. I don't know. Or you could go buy, a Spyderco freaking Rosenti, for $500 or $600.
Yeah.
So you're usually not that far off from getting something cool. So guys, open your horizons. There's so much out there. So much. You never have to be focused on this one knife. I know we all do it, but so much out there.
Unless it's the danger pickle. Then
Unless
you need to be
the
focused
danger
on
pickle,
it.
which I'm surprised you didn't bring.
I should have.
You should have brought the pickle, because I wanted to handle a pickle.
I'll let you hold my pickle later.
All right. As long as I get to hold the pickle later, I'm okay.
Yeah. Well,
it was good.
That was good. So Alex is Alex_Knifebox on Instagram.
Correct.
And on YouTube, he's Alex's Knifebox. You're going to put this on your YouTube too, yeah? So we'll put this on both of our channels?
Yep.
So if you're watching this on Alex's channel, I am Bearded Gear on YouTube. And on Instagram, it's @bearded_gear.
Correct. And we both host a podcast. So you guys, every 2 weeks, we do it on Twitch, as long as not something crazy going on in life.
You can come join us in making fun of Tom's tiny hands. That's
Yep.
our favorite pastime.
They really are tiny, no matter what he tells himself.
Little baby hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so catch us on the Sharp Talk podcast, and we'll probably do this again. This has been
Absolutely.
fun.
Absolutely
So,
will.
if you guys like this, comment down below. Let us know if this is something you enjoy, seeing us get together and converse/hand knives to each other. We both have a lot more where that came from, so if you want to see us hand more knives to each other, we can do it.
Absolutely.
Soon you'll see him hold my pickle.
Yes. With pleasure.
Thanks, guys. We will catch you soon.
All right, guys. Thanks again.